Welcome to the Growers Mineral Podcast. This episode features audio from our February conference call, held on March 13th, 2025. Each month, we host a live discussion on Zoom, bringing together farmers, agronomists, and industry experts to share insights on soil health, crop nutrition, and sustainable farming practices. For more information about Growers Mineral or to join our next call, visit growersmineral.com. And now, enjoy the discussion.
It's a little after 9. I think we'll go ahead and get started. And Lowell, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. My name is Jim Halbeisen. I'm in charge of the Growers Mineral Corporation conference call. And usually Russ kicks this off, but he's got other duties that he's taking care of, so I'm kind of in charge. Our participants are a little slow getting on our invite this evening. Just as a reminder for you guys that use the text message that we had the call tonight, and the link to the call wasn't on there. Now, if a guy is struggling, you can go back to a past text message and hit that link, and it'll basically put you onto the call. But again, some guys kind of wait till the 11th hour. So we'll go ahead and get started at this point. What we've been doing at the conference calls is basically, in the first half, I've been talking a little bit about current events in agriculture. You know, the $10 billion that's going out from the government, and then talking about the different prospects for the sides of the growers program. But we've had several of the district managers that have requested that rather than waiting to the second half to bring on our guests, they'd like to see us bring the guests on right away and give them a full time to really participate, in the call itself, so that we could cover all avenues of what the guests have to talk about. And what we have been doing has been following the growers calendar for 2025 this year, and the March picture is a beautiful picture of Paul Daughter's farmstead. Paul took that with a drone, and that was sent to us as holiday or as a thank you for working with Paul. And so we put that in the calendar. We thought it was an excellent shot. So that territory is Northern Maryland. The district manager he works with is Lowell Grove. Lowell's located in Hanover, Pennsylvania, which is just north of Paul. And so Lowell will be participating in the call this evening. Paul will be participating. Lowell's son-in-law, Rich Rhodes, will be participating. Rich is located over in far eastern Ohio, around the Canton area. Rich is a dairyman. Paul's an old dairyman. It's a row crop farmer now. So these guys are going to be talking a little bit about their operation, how growers fits in with their operation, and then talk some about the points of the growers program. And so we'll give them an opportunity to discuss that a little bit. But we're going to start the meeting off with our district manager, which would be Lowell Grove. Lowell's been with us a long time. He got started a few years ago and had some issues on the farm, and we were able to give him some help to kind of kickstart things. And then Lowell does some repping for us also, and Lowell still does a certain amount of farming. He said he's got his grandson with him tonight. We're basically trying to get him involved, just like a lot of our DMs. We've got some fourth generation growers guys that we're working with, and we're quite proud of that. So, Lowell, if you're got yourself unmuted, I'm going to turn this over to you and let you chat a little bit about what you think is important to talk about from your perspective and the growers program.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. You're ready to go, partner.
Okay, then I'm on mute. So, okay, I think I got with growers somewhere around 97. And because of major problems we had on the farm, because a lot of that come from listening to the old system. And we had a lot of problems there. So anyways, we got to the point where we had to do something. And spending all this other ways that other people said. I finally got to the point one day where I started asking myself some questions. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Am I getting the results I want? And if not, why not? Therefore, when certain farm I had, recommendations were put this much fertilizer on for 200 bushel corn. And I never got it. I put it on. Of course, keeping myself broke at the same time after I lost that herding. And I put it on, and I never got more than 125 bushel of that corn. And the bad years, I got 85 bushel or less. So what am I doing? That's what I was doing. Why am I doing it? Well, do I really know why I'm doing it? And then, so am I getting the results I want? Well, no, I wasn't getting the results I want. And if not, why not? Well, that became a long story. And because of not getting what I want. So I finally decided to cut down the fertilizer to half of what the other people's recommendation was. And I found out it really didn't change my yields much. The good years I'd get 120 bushel, the bad years I'd get 85 or less. And it really didn't change. So then, we were worked at that. And of course, the rep that sold me the first grower's fertilizer, he couldn't understand me and things like that. Finally, the local agronomist told me to start using calcium because one field was such that, we had a lot of iron and it wouldn't do as well. And he told me to put on high calcium lime. And then, of course, when I started doing that, then the rep said, why didn't you listen to me the first time, Anyways, so, I learned the hard lessons the hard way. And my one grandson, not the one with me, said one night that he told me I was a slow learner because I told him I was still in school. So, I'm still learning the farm. So, anyways, to make a long story short, I attended the first meeting of growers that I went to, and that was kind of interesting. And Jim started talking about feeding this stuff to the cows, and I fed it to the cows, and then the feed man became mad at me. So I guess I'm just a rebel somewhere. And he became mad at me, but we got results feeding it to the cows. A little weight, got better digestibility, things like that. And in the waves, I've gone taking the cows down in protein every 2 weeks. Where the feed company is feeding a lot of protein to try to digest the feed, we got where we started digesting better. And the cows got better. The health of the cows got better. And I began to think, if these people knew as much about feeding the cows, what the results I see, I think they must know about themselves, must know about the soil too. So then I jumped wholeheartedly to growers after I started putting high calcium lime on. And here we are. We kept it up. We've had some good years. We've had bad years. But we haven't been ourselves broke. We've just keep on doing, So here we are. You got to beg me to be the rep out this way. And And Jim said he would invest some time in me, but he didn't know what he was getting into when he said that. So we are. So here we are. And of course, the time come where we brought some other reps in, and they each have a different story to tell. And one of them may not be on the meeting tonight. If he is, we can give him a chance to speak. But then this grandson of mine, he comes along and he takes a little interest in what it's doing. So, that's a little bit of what we've done. We still
Hey, Lowell, I'd like to interrupt you a little bit. When you work with potential customers or you work with your sales force, when you talk to guys about the growers program, what's your approach on that? How do you approach a guy? Do you talk a lot about calcium? Do you talk a lot about fertilizer? What to you is really a very important part of the program?
Well, we talk a lot about calcium, and then we get, 2 growers, and I basically almost go down and use my own story to tell people a little what happened. Mm-hmm. And just when you ask how I do, I'm going to say I don't know. Everyone's different. I don't know what I do, but the good Lord has given us some success and things like that. So, but I try to bring in both. That you don't need as much fertilizer, and this is a non-toxic and non-corrosive fertilizer that we can feed the livestock, and even tell people I take it myself. So, that helps. Do that out at different farms already too. People say you wouldn't drink this stuff. Well, after about the 3rd time they tell me that, I unscrew the cap and pour some out of the jug and take it. So, that's a little of the way we handle it. So, we try to find out what they're interested in: fruit, livestock, soil, and kind of go from there.
What do you got for clients, Lowell? I mean, you've got tree crop guys, you've got livestock guys, you've got rotational row crop guys. Is that pretty well? You're dealing with just about everything, right?
Well, yeah, just about. With the reps we have different things in them. We do. We are versatile. We're not just all of our eggs in one basket.
Sure.
And when it goes bad for one, the other one might be good.
So, Lowell, talk a little bit about your lime source that your guys are working with.
The lime?
Yeah.
Okay. We get lime out of the paper mill down here in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. We get lime out of that. Comes out of that paper mill. Greatly condemned by the competition around here. And I just had a guy say today that fertilizer place close to him says, "You're wasting your money putting on lime." So this lime is non-toxic. I mean, it does have a higher pH than some lime. But I've only put 20 or 40 ton on some of my acres. And when people come in here, seed people come in here and say, if I had a little problem with seed, they say, we got to give you a seed. This is the last time we're ever doing it. If it didn't come up right or something like that. They said, this is the last time we do it unless you change the way we farm. Nicely told them, I'll change the way where I buy seed. And, at the same time, they were telling me that there was crops here growing and looking good without all their potash and stuff like that they were telling me I had to put on. So it did change growing seed. Some years, some years it rains here. Some years it doesn't.
Mhm.
And yet the last 2 years was really dry, and our alfalfa did really well. I think it's because of the calcium we put on the ground. And then, of course, I use, and the fact is, it makes better quality feed.
Sure.
You know, I'm working with different dairymen now. One I sold growers to a number of years back. Then he didn't buy any for a while, and then he called me last fall. We want to start feeding this to our cows. So since October, now he's got a problem. 500 cows, and they don't hardly have any in their sick pen.
Excellent.
Oh, no. And they say they have fine lime like I do. And I told them to feed at least 8 ounces of that per cow. And they started at 2 ounces of growers, and they're working their way up. But all of a sudden they said, as dirty as our barns were last winter, it was cold and frozen here. We don't have the cows in the sick pen.
Excellent.
So, okay. So, you know, but I was a dairyman myself, of course. I learned a lot through that. And I try to work on their terms, meet them where they are.
Yep.
Do I always succeed? No. So, anyways.
Okay, very good. That's kind of what I was looking for. Hey, is Rich Rhodes? Are you on? Can you mute yourself, Rich, and let us know if you're out there? Yeah, there you are. I see your phone popped up. So are you there? Hey, Rich has got a 330 area code, right, Lowell?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, now we got you. Good job.
Okay.
Very good.
Yep.
Very good. So
Yep.
this is Rich Rhodes. Rich and Lowell have kind of a backdoor relationship. Rich decided to marry Lowell's daughter, or vice versa, and Rich is down in the Canton area of Ohio, and I've been on Rich's farm several times. Just kind of tell guys, Rich, you know, what kind of operation you got. You know, Rich is milking, and talk a little bit about, you know, how you use the program, and just give them some ideas of what happens on your farm.
Okay. All right. I'll try to do that. We started using, my dad and I started using the growers program in 2002. We started feeding it to the cows first, about 3 to 4 ounces per cow per day with the fine lime. We found a place we could get it from growers rep in Hartville. He's no longer living, but Ted Rohr, we got the lime from him, and then was feeding the growers. And then we also started using it in the field. We farmed a couple hundred acres of corn and alfalfa and oats and barley and a little bit of wheat sometimes. And so we've been, foliar feeding, using it as starter fertilizer and using the growers, and been seeing good results right along. When we started the program, we had several fields that were really high in magnesium, and the growers guys told us that we needed to spread a lot of lime to overcome that, and so we did. And the fields were really hard when we started, and a couple years later they started they started getting soft, and the ground was just a whole lot more workable, and that's what we liked. We could use a whole lot less nitrogen and stuff like that when we was growing a corn crop, and
So hey, Rich, how many cows are you milking?
We're milking between 150 and 170. It just depends a little bit. And
are you feeding all your corn, or do you sell any corn, or does it all go into feed?
Yeah, we feed just about all of it. We feed just about all of it and sell a little bit. It just depends on the year and my crop rotation and stuff. And
you are you making all silage? You doing any earlage, or what's that program?
We basically do silage, and then what we don't get chopped, we shell dry corn.
Usually this.
And then feed that dry, and then feed haylage and baleage also.
Sure. What about your lime source, Rich? I mean, where do you get that from?
We get a couple different places, but we've spread a lot of water treatment lime. There's a couple places not too far that they haul it really, really reasonable, and we've spread a lot of that. And then if we have to, we'll truck it from Maslin or Huron, and that gets a little more pricey, but it's good lime. It's usually I think it's 28-1, 28-4 maybe, but it's good calcium levels, and
good.
We'll use that if we have to. But
How are you spreading that with a manure spreader? Are you mixing it with manure, or what are you doing that way?
Most of it with a night slinger spreader.
Okay.
I have 2 of them, and most of that, especially the water treatment lime, usually it's pretty damp, and we'll put down. Depends on the crop, what we're growing and stuff, but we'll put down 6 or 8 tons.
Gotcha.
Before we sow alfalfa, and then good for a number of years, but most of our grounds had a good dose of lime on it, just to help everything work better.
When you spread that lime, do you try to work it in then, Rich?
We do, yeah. Most of the time we chisel plow it. Once in a while I do, very little no-tilling, but once in a while we do a little bit, but not much.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I like to aerate the soil. And
Are you direct seeding alfalfa, or are you using a nurse crop? How do you do that?
Both. Sometimes we'll do a little bit of oats with it, but not too often. It just depends if I'm going in the spring or if I'm going after barley or wheat more toward the fall, But if I'm short on feed, put a nurse crop with it.
I got you. Last time we were together, we talked a little bit about this beef on dairy thing. Can you chat a little bit about that and what you're seeing, and are you participating in that at all, or what's going on there? And we're hearing numbers on these calves of, unbelievable, buck a pound, couple bucks a pound. What's your experience with that?
Yeah. I don't do a lot of, beef on dairy. I mostly, I do a few, and the bull calves and even the heifer calves, the beef, they'll sell really good. If they're up there and healthy, if they're 95, 90 pounds, they'll bring $5-6 a pound or more. And they're, they need them. They want them really bad. I guess, there's the shortage on the beef end of it. And but I do mostly just straight Holsteins, and usually run a pretty good heifer ratio, heifer to bull calf, and then Springer heifers, they sell really good too right now. So
what's the milk price been doing? Is that they're talking about the consumption of milk in this country is almost the same as it was in 1954. It's just that not people are drinking a lot of milk; they're eating a tremendous amount of cheese.
Okay, well, the milk price, it ended up in like the year in January was really good. It backed off a little bit, but it still is really workable. I mean, it ain't like 10, 15 years ago, but it's really workable. And there again, we try to watch our inputs and stuff, so we're not putting an extreme amount into them either, so that really helps. But
talk a little bit about when you on corn with growers. Are you in furrow and then do any foliar feeding, or what are you doing there?
Well, I like to do. I aim for 4 gallon on the seed when I plant.
Mm-hmm.
And once in a while I vary it a little bit, but then I like to foliar feed, especially when I'm going to chop for silage. But
sure,
I don't always get that done, but the cows do. They do better with a good foliar feed on it.
What kind of population are you planting, Rich?
I'm running right at 32,000. It's just I like to keep a good stand, and if I get it the ground prepped right and stuff, it comes up and comes up pretty good, and the rabbits almost have to go to the end of the road to switch rows. But
so the other question is, are you using a supplemental nitrogen, or are you just getting manure on your corn crop?
Well, I like to do manure, and then once in a while I'll come in with a little bit nitrogen, and that last year I did 100 pounds of urea, which ain't a lot, and it was amazing that little bit just boosted it, a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And there's now if I get a lot of hard rains, I like to come in with liquid nitrogen and knife it in so I can get air into the soil.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
It all depends on the spring.
What do you do when you put that urea on? Are you working that in, or are you spreading that after the corn's up?
Yeah, I like to spread it after the corn's up, almost knee high, just about where I can't get over it. So
I gotcha.
So it's there for that late season push.
I gotcha.
And I like to do it right before rain too, if it works in. But
yeah. Yeah. I understand. I understand.
I don't work it in.
So on spreading the lime, if you get 5, 6, 7 ton on, when do you think you'll come back to that field again?
It just depends a little bit. Normally it's not going to be right away. It's going to be for sure 5 years.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so you're about a ton. You're about a ton per acre per year is kind of what you're landing on, huh?
Yeah. Especially if we've had it, because we picked up some ground that, my brother used to farm with me, and we just don't farm right until it has had adequate lime on it.
Sure.
And we've seen it more than once, and we're like, wow, that place just don't do it like the others. And we get out the lime spreader and get another heavy dose on it.
So what kind of dirt you have, Rich? Would you say is it heavier clay, loamier clay? It's not sand, I assume.
No, it ain't. Some is a little bit of sand, not much. Not much of the. It's more of the loam, and a little bit of clay. North, we rent some ground that's playground, a little bit heavier, and some bottom ground. And so, I got a number of different soil types, but the
Typical
sand
for Ohio.
we have. How's that?
It's typical for Ohio. You got variation.
Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, very good. Hey, Rich, I appreciate it. Fine job.
Yep.
Hope you don't hog all the
call.
rain down there, and let me have a little bit of it. So
okay.
Don't hog it all.
I'll let you have
let
some.
us have some up here.
Yep.
So, Paul Daughter, I don't think I know what Paul's area code is. So if you're out there, Paul, if you can kind of jump on for me, unmute yourself, and we want to chat a little bit about your picture, and then guys will be very interested in what you're doing as far as your crops are concerned. So looks like I got Paul there. 410, is that you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm on. Yep.
Very good. Very good.
I'm on.
So
yeah.
this is Paul Daughter. He works with Lowell. I've known Paul forever. We do the Mountain Gate and try to tell guys what we know. And Paul sent us this picture here a couple of years ago, and Carla she said, man, this is beautiful. So we decided we needed to put that into the calendar, and right away that puts Lowell and Paul on the hook here to kind of talk a little bit at the conference call. But I've been on Paul's farm enough. That picture it's pretty representative of the way he does business. So he does a real nice job. And if you can talk about your operation, Paul was a dairyman at one time. If you can talk about your operation, tell these guys, what you're doing and how do you approach it, the calcium and the growers and how that works for you.
Okay, Jim. We started on the growers program, I guess, in the fall of 2005. And we actually started feeding it to the dairy herd first. Right. And then we were previously using like a 9-18-9 from a competitor for foliar fertilizer and some starter. And then the spring in 2006, we switched over to growers and went completely with them. And we started applying a lot of lime like the program calls for. Our source here, mostly, sometimes we've gotten the Gladfelder paper mill lime, but it's not quite as accessible with the trucking for the distance. Mostly we get lime from Domino's sugar plant in Baltimore, and it's the lime that they use in the processing of sugar. It's actually a pelletized food grade lime that's hydrated when it goes in. And so it's kind of a damp lime, and we've spread a lot of that over the years. But anyhow, when we started the dairy, on the growers program, we saw a lot of health benefits, for the time that we used it. And then later on there in the early, I guess it's 2007, I guess is when we discontinued dairy when we were 50 years old. And now we just do row crops mostly. About 250 acres of corn, 250 acres of soybeans, and a little over 100 acres of grass hay that we make. And do some custom spraying and combining and a little bit of planting for people and baling. And kind of semi-retired, it seems like, now that the cows are going. But anyhow, it's all working out real well for me. And I guess I started selling growers in the fall of 2006. And but we use growers for the starter fertilizer and the planter. Usually come back with 2 foliar treatments of growers. One when corn's maybe 6 inches, 18 inches tall, and then the second trip through about as tall as we can get through the sprayer. Sometimes that's as tall as 6 feet or so we'll go through. Living in Maryland, we're in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, and with nutrient management, they stay on us pretty tight, and we do split applications of nitrogen. And of course, we have to follow most of the recommendations. A lot of no-till in our area, not 100% mandatory, but it's very much encouraged. Seldom do we do much heavy tillage. Usually do a little bit of vertical tillage, to seed some cover crops or something. The last several years, we've seeded cover crops on every acre of corn and beans. And that's pretty much what we're doing as far as a cropping program. Most of my customers are in the row cropping business. I have one orchard, still have a dairy that uses it, but dairy in our area is kind of phased out pretty quickly, and not too many of those around anymore. So,
how much, hey Paul, how much nitrogen are you using on your corn, and how do you apply it?
Well, I usually put maybe about 80 units on with the burn down, and then we'll come back with generally about 80 more. Kind of depends on what the season looks like, whether we have rain or not. We usually side dress corn when between my two foliar treatments is usually the way it works out. And corn's maybe about 3 feet tall or so. We'll come through and side dress it, we'll just stream it on. And usually 80 units. Sometimes we have going as high as 100, for the side dress. But we get relatively good yields, so it's still not that bad, I don't think, for what we're doing.
So when you're streaming, you're just laying it on top of the soil, or are you trying to wide drop it?
No, with our hills and contours, wide dropping wouldn't work too well.
Okay.
Plus, we'd have to go to 60 feet wide, and I'm used to doing 100 feet at a time, so it'd be a new set of tracks for me and everything.
I gotcha.
What I do is the sprayer's set up on 20-inch centers, and I just put like a 5-foot hose in each one. I'm actually, stringing it on 20-inch centers and 30-inch rows. It seems like that works well for us, And
are you using 28 or 32, Paul?
Well, in our area, it's generally always 30.
30.
And
okay.
Yeah, very, very little 32 in our area.
I gotcha.
So, but typically that's what we do.
What do you on your marketing? Where's your grain go to? I mean, is it going to feed or the ethanol, or what's that all about?
Well, there's really no ethanol in Maryland at all, or Pennsylvania close by. Ours goes to Gettysburg, to AgCom, and the poultry industry is basically what they're feeding chickens and turkeys. They have other customers too, but I would say 75% of what they grind goes to the poultry industry. And then our beans go to them as well, usually. And they have a way of crushing them, taking the oil out and selling. It's not bean meal, but it's an enhanced product for soybeans that they sell. And that's where the bulk of it usually goes. We store it on the farm usually and sell it the following year.
Sure. So what do you see with this bird flu thing? I mean, are you interacting with these guys that are buying the corn? Is it a big problem, or are they kind of got it under control? What's happening there?
Well, where I sell to at different times, different years, even in midsummer, they'll have some bird flu cases that will pop up, and then you have to wash your truck tires or sanitize your truck tires when you go in to take corn up, that kind of thing sometimes. But typically what I try to do is get a basis contract on my crops in the fall. That way, at least I know I have a buyer for them the next year, whether bird flu hits their customers a lot, and their need for corn diminishes. I haven't heard of anything locally from the dairy side or from, the poultry side up there. So fortunately, maybe we could hold it off. But I know at times they've had, some, flocks of bird flu June and July before too, which is kind of not typical, but they've had it.
So talk about soybeans, Paul. Are you in narrow rows? You in 15s? You in 30s? What are you doing with your beans? And do you use any growers in furrow on the beans, or do you all foliar? Or do you do both? What are you doing there?
With the beans, we plant with a 15-inch row planter, no-till planter. Usually the beans go in as a minimum till because they're following corn, and we usually take a vertical till through there to kind of break the corn stalks a little bit more before we plant. We do use growers in furrow, usually just about a gallon to the acre, and mix that with water to apply like 5 gallons total, and to dilute it down some so it doesn't burn any. And with beans, we generally go over beans 3 times with growers. And usually, first time I do be about a gallon, depending on what size they are. That's usually timed with a herbicide pass, to clean up some weeds. We do a pre-plant fertilizer, but we usually come back in. Johnson grass kind of a problem in our area, and we'll come back in with Roundup, the first trip, and then usually 2 more applications of 2 gallons each. Usually the third time through, we'll put an insecticide in there, and often a fungicide as well. That's kind of what we do with that program.
What are you doing with the herbicide, Paul? What kind of beans are you raising?
Well, we used to have all extend beans, and of course now they've kind of taken the dicamba away from us. Of course, they were Liberty as well. And then this year I got one of the, what's the new beans, the 2,4-D enlist beans. I got 1 box of enlist beans come. The rest are still extend with Liberty. So we've really, with our pre-plant program and the 1 trip with Roundup, we've really been taking care of everything. We go in with Metrobusion and Authority XL at burn down, and we've been using dicamba with the burn down, which kind of mare's tails is our other problem we kind of have in our area, and they're resistant to the ALS chemicals. So that generally takes care of that, and probably next year I'll be all enlist beans most likely. I'm guessing to make things simpler, but it's only kind of really an escape with the mare's tail that we'll need to come back and work on that there. Some people I sprayed for, we used Liberty last year, and that did a really good job for us. So that's gotten to be really inexpensive now that it's generic. So not such a bad program there either.
So would you say that, in the area where you farm, that most guys are going to enlist for their herbicide?
Well, yes, for sure. Yeah, the other part's pretty much just going away now. It's I don't think it ever did work as far as not drifting. 2 years ago, we planted Pioneer's Plenish beans, which are a high oleic bean, and they have no traits except for Roundup on those. And we had 1 field of beans that got drift from somebody twice during the season, and from dicamba or 2,4-D, one or the other, and it really smoked them fairly good. So it's kind of good to have some trait in there, but they aren't really paying that much for the those beans anymore, for the Plenish beans. Kind of phasing out to a certain degree as far as popularity. But
so basically, corn and beans both are going into feed. The people that are buying from you are using them for feed.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So what's your approach on applying the lime? And are you working it in? And what's kind of your rotation with lime as far as volume is concerned? It seemed like Rich basically was saying, he's getting about 1 ton per acre per year. He'll put on 5 ton, and then he probably won't come back for 5 years. What's kind of your protocol?
Well, very seldom do we do extensive tillage like with a heavy chisel. Most all of it is just, several inches deep. Occasionally, if we have some rutting, we'll go in with a disc and go in deeper, kind of thing. So incorporating per se isn't very deep when we do incorporate. Trying to stay with the no-till thing, we do have our erosion concerns. But with that said, since we do have the high calcium on the ground, the water does perk and go in a lot better than what it used to, as far as the runoff and that kind of thing.
Sure.
We can get in trouble with, a lot of heavy tillage if you don't get lucky with rainfall. So we're not applying near that much. I would say initially we came in with 4 or 5 tons a acre and ground never had any, and then after so many years we'll come back probably at least 2 tons a acre, within 5 years, something like that. But we got extremely high, base saturations of calcium now, and even pounds per acre and whatever.
So are you doing your own spreading, Paul? Do you have somebody truck it in, or do you truck it in and then do you do all the spreading yourself?
Yeah, we have our own lime spreader, pool type spreader, and we rent it out to some customers as well. No, the lime that comes from the Domino sugar plant, there's only one trucking company that's able to haul it out. It's for the food security reasons. So they bring it to the farm, and
I gotcha.
So it's a pretty good deal. Occasionally you get a little wetter that you got to kind of work in with the other, but it's extremely fine. I mean, it's like talcum powder between your fingers, and once it goes through the process of being used for the sugar, it's pretty decent stuff.
Yeah, our sugar beet boys, they're very happy with their with their lime. Now, this it's Domino sugar, did you say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, are they processing like cane sugar? Do you have any idea what their source of sugar is?
Yeah, there's this cane sugar that's coming in down there.
I got you. And how long have you been using that? Quite a while, right?
Oh, we probably started at their first thing, when we start the growers.
I got you.
We did get some of the glad filter paper lime there for a few years, but then it became more scarce, and it's hard to get drivers from Maryland to go up there to pick it up with the hours that they're open. Then if it sprinkles on the truck bed, it all sticks to the sides, and they don't want to go. So.
Sure. Okay. All righty. Very good, Paul. Hey, I appreciate it. And we love the picture, man. Carla just said that's top drawer as far as she's concerned. And I agree with her 100%. So, so you did a winter scene one also, you told me, when we were kibitzing at the annual meeting, right?
Yeah, that's what this here Christmas card was this past year. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, we'll latch on to one of those because that we don't want to promote it too much. You might quit farming, and we don't want that. So.
No, I'm not retired that way. I'm just retired from cows.
Yeah, I understand. So I appreciate it tremendously.
Oh, well, one other thing, Jim.
Sure.
Kind of interesting to me. Back when we had cows, of course, we had manure coming out of our ears, basically, And, once the cows left, and there's no cattle on the farm at all now, we raised some heifers for a while, but that didn't generate a lot of manure. But, it's different to learn how to farm once you don't have that manure anymore. You lose all those trace minerals. And I think that's one place where the growers program really shines, that, I'm trying to replace those minerals that were coming in the manure, with the growers program. And it's a learning curve to do that, because once that manure is gone, and we're farming farms that hadn't seen manure for 60 years too,
Right. That's right.
But, there's something missing that the old cow gave you,
Yeah, no. And see that synergy, once you got going with the program and started getting that synergy of the manure with the calcium, We've had so many guys tell us that they've been able to resurrect farms that, were almost like a wasteland when they started getting the manure and the calcium on together. And that synergy is very good. And I tend to agree with you, especially as a starter. This idea that a run hog is always a run hog. I just believe you get growers in there as a starter, even if you don't have the calcium on, that gets that plant off to a nice start. And those traces are a big deal there, in my opinion. So,
yeah,
very good. Hey, I appreciate it, Paul.
Thank you, Jim.
Take care of yourself, man. Hey, Lowell, are you still on? Is there anything you want to add to this before we talk a few current events before we shut this thing down? So I don't know if I lost Lowell or not. He's probably trying to unmute himself there.
Now, how about that?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay.
You got anything you want to add to this?
Waiting for you to ask him a couple questions.
Call, yeah. Well, if you want to let him come on and he wants to discuss anything in particular, is this the young man that drew the picture of the 40-20 plowing?
Yeah, that was a 45-20.
45-20, okay.
That's it. His name's Bryson. Go ahead and ask him what you want to ask him.
So, Bryson, does your grandpa let you drive the 45-20 or any of the other equipment? And what do you think of that green paint?
He hasn't let me drive bigger tractors yet, and the green paint is the wrong color.
Okay, very good, very good. You and Mr. Daughter will get along real well because he's awful red, I'll tell you. Okay, Lowell, thanks very much. Excellent job. This is really the type of thing that guys are interested in, to listen to our guys, our customers, talk about it. So,
okay.
So, very good. I'm going to jump on a little bit here, guys. We got a few minutes left and talk a little bit about the current events. About the one thing is with the price of commodities. We've seen, with the new administration and these tariff ideas that he's basically promoting, that's really put a spook into the market. It's really gone after the stock market very significantly. It took another nosedive today, but the grain market has been up and down, but the grain market has kind of tried to rally a little bit. We get that first WASNI report in January really opened the door, and corn, took off about 60, 70 cents. And then what happened is in the end of February, the government came out with their grain and oilseed report, and basically said that the 2025 corn crop was going to be, 181 bushel, which is a record. And they said they're going to plant between 94 and 95 million acres. So that was going to affect the carryover quite significantly. And we're seeing some of these advisors are saying that the government is totally ignoring the usage at this point. Mexico has been buying corn like gangbusters, and the government is not. We just had a WASNI report here on Tuesday, and really they're not recognizing the way this corn export is going. They're pretty well ignoring it, saying that they've got to be careful with the implementation of the tariffs. And DTN has a new gentleman from Canada that's been talking about, the commodity markets. And it's very interesting. He's really discussed some very interesting things related to inflation and related to the markets also. And in his last report that came out on DTN on the 12th of March, he made a fairly strong comment saying, that the thing that's most frustrating and confusing is that the USDA again refused to increase the United States corn export estimates. And see, they were saying, January, December, that Mexico was front ending themselves with corn, buying enough so that they were afraid the Trump administration was going to do what they're doing right now. But that doesn't appear to be what's happening. Mexico's still buying like crazy. And a lot of this has already been shipped. So again, there's quite a bit of debate out here of what the government is actually doing with these reports. This Canadian gentleman saying it appears to him that the Doge or whatever Musk is doing has already affected the USDA prediction on these grain markets or the export markets, that they're not putting out decent information from what everybody else is looking at. So that's just something to keep your eye on as far as what's going to happen. Now, the other thing that's, a front-ended thing for you guys that are farming is this $10 billion that the Biden administration appropriated, for farmers because of, the markets and what inflation has done to these inputs. And the Trump administration is going to go along with that. And they're talking about like the 20th of March when this money is going to start to being distributed. Now, they've got a new name for this thing. It's had a couple different names under Biden, but now the Trump administration is calling it the Emergency Commodity Assistance Program. And they're basically saying you got to go through FSA and you've got to apply for this money. And they're still saying that they think this thing is going to come out, the 20th of March. Now, the only hang up to that, guys, is they can't seem to get their act together on funding the government operation. Even though they've removed a lot of government employees, they still have to come to some agreement on how they're going to fund this thing. And supposedly the government's going to run out of money tomorrow night. And what some of these advisors are saying is if they don't get that bill passed, to fund the government, that these checks aren't going to come near as quickly. So you guys that are looking at this, FSA is where you got to talk to. And right now, the new Secretary of Agriculture is saying that they have a protocol for this, and FSA should know what that is. And if you need an application, they should have that. So again, this is something that is supposedly going to be available to everybody that's farming. Now, the disaster relief, I know the Carolinas, the senators and the representatives are pretty adamant with the new Secretary of Agriculture that they want this money to come out just as fast as the assistance money. And whether that'll happen or not, she's saying that it should. So you guys that are farming in the Carolinas, with the disaster, the water damage that's down there, that stuff is supposedly going to be available. So again, there's guys asking about that. And so we've just tried to keep updated on that to know where we're at. The other thing is basically the cattle market. When they came out with the grain and oilseed prediction, basically they started hammering away at the cattle price because they said there was just going to be so much feed out there that we were going to have a huge influx of that. But the amount of heifers that are in the lot with the bulls, the bull calves, is pretty similar. So it doesn't appear the processors are trying to say that they feel that the herd is starting to be built in the U.S., and that's not what the numbers are saying. There's a young woman that's writing for DTN about that, and she's been pretty well dead on this, looking at the fundamentals, and she said this cattle market, she thinks, has got a couple of years left in it. And one of the things that they're bringing out is what Paul's talked about, retiring from cows. that a lot of these farmers, they're in a time frame in their life that if they can turn, big money on heifers, they're not retaining, they're selling. And so this is even with the influx from the dairy operations, there's been such a reduction in the herd itself. It's down in the numbers area of 1952. And really the usage of fresh meat, fresh beef has been very, very good as far as the Hamburg market is concerned. So they feel that if we don't go into a total recession, that the demand is going to be there, then that the price of beef is going to hold in there very well. Another thing I just want to bring up to you guys is we're looking at starting a constant podcast. The owners feel that this is something that will give us good exposure. We have a lot of information that we can talk about. And so what we're going to try to do is bring on our customers and our guys that rep for us, who are also our customers, and talk about, the growers program, basically try to delve into, the calcium side of the equation. There's some very interesting scientific articles that are coming out here, have come out in the last year, basically talking about how important calcium is, with this idea that the microbes are feeding the plants, and how calcium gets you the proper symbiotic microbes so that your ability to use the minerals that are already in your soil through the biological activity improves quite dramatically. And then the other thing is they're saying they have a term called rhizophagy, where they're saying the plants are actually eating, these microbes. And there's several articles about this is a very good way to build the immune system of the plant. It's very similar to what's happening in the human species. You eat roughage to stimulate the microbes in the intestinal tract. They claim the plants basically do the same thing when they consume these microbes, that's the system, the way it was actually devised. And the more you follow that system, the more you can utilize what's already in the soil. Your need to supplement can go down fairly significantly. And see, this is what, Rich and Paul were talking about, and Lowell, that when you get that calcium on, you can start whittling on the edges on these things and get those trace elements in there. See, these microbes are consuming the grower's product as you put it on. Everybody thinks that it's going all into the plant, and that's not necessarily. Even when you foliar spray, the plant doesn't necessarily use the total volume you spray on. They basically transport that down to the root zone, and then it goes out into the soil, with the sugars, and the microbes get a hold of it. And see, then it's possible to bring that back in again, or get that perpetual motion machine going to grow that crop. We don't argue that you can pile on a lot of fertilizer and get a higher yield, but what are you paying for? See, we're trying to make this as efficient as we possibly can, and see the thing that's beneficial about that, it's not bleeding out into the environment. So we think that's got a lot of validity to it too, because if you read our last solution, I wrote an article in there about the war on nitrogen, and boy, we see it everywhere. Even these websites, they're talking about guys that are growing, very good yields with minimal amount of nitrogen. And see, this is something that's totally new to the establishment. It's all pounds make bushels. And see, they're trying to suggest that there is a different way. And see, this is what our mantra has been from the beginning. So we try to talk about that, and our guys, as they learn how to implement this system or get the soil to work correctly, that can happen for you. So I see that we're past the 10 o'clock hour, and I know a lot of you guys like to get your beauty rest, so I don't want to hold you on any longer. We will come back with basically one more Thursday conference call, and that'll be in April. And the date on that, it'll be the 10th of April. And the picture is from southwestern Ohio. Our district manager over there is Mike Bolsher. And Mike and several of his reps will be talking about, how they use the product on their farms. One of the things Mike is I wanted him to talk a little bit about, his son put up one of these calf barns where they're bringing in these beef on dairy calves. And Mike said it's been a very learning experience. Mike talked when they got going on this, Mike was talking about it on our sales calls. And there was quite a bit of interest in that. Guys weren't necessarily ready to put their foot in the bucket, but they were kind of interested in how this was going. And they've got one batch under their belt. And so Mike and his son, I don't know if his son will be on, but Mike will be on and chat a little bit about that. Then the vegetables that you're looking at in that April picture, we'll have the guys that are responsible for that'll be discussing it at that point. And then after April, everybody's going to go to the field. And so we'll shut the conference call down until September. And then again, we'll pick up at that point and basically take it on. But the podcasts, again, you can get those through the internet or through the website. And then you can search Growers Minerals also and get those podcasts. And we're going to try to make them educational, talk a little bit about current events, but then really talk about the growers program. And I'll be again responsible for that, but I'll be bringing on, guys that are customers, and some of them are reps also, and they'll talk about what they're doing on their farm to try to give you some ideas of what you can do to fine tune working with the growers program. So hopefully it was educational, everybody, and we'll talk again to you in April on the 10th. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Growers Mineral Podcast. Our next conference call is on April 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Follow us on Facebook at Growers Mineral for updates. To submit questions for the show, email. Contact us at growersmineral.com.